First Contact and Assessment. Senior Inspector ZYX for 27 adjusted their sensory membranes as they stared at the blue-green orb through the ship's observation dome. Behind them, their team of 4 elite planetary assessors waited in respectful silence. After 3 centuries of evaluating worlds for the Galactic Safety Council's training programs, ZYX thought they'd seen everything. How wrong they were about to be. Preliminary scans indicate Class 3 habitability, announced First Analyst Riven, their crystalline form reflecting the Earth's light. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, liquid water, moderate gravitational field. Nothing remarkable. ZYX's tentacles rippled with amusement. Another routine assessment, or so they thought. The Galactic Safety Council needed new training grounds for their elite forces, and Earth had appeared on their sensors as a potentially suitable location. Standard procedure: land, evaluate, classify, move on. Begin descent protocols, ZYX ordered. Target landing zone, Northern Hemisphere, moderate climate zone. That's when everything started going wrong. Their ship's AI flagged 37 near misses with artificial satellites before they even reached the upper atmosphere. The debris field around this planet was unlike anything they'd encountered, a maze of functional and defunct technology, all orbiting at various velocities. Fascinating, muttered Second Analyst Klex, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with excitement. They've turned their orbital space into an obstacle course. The descent grew more challenging as they penetrated the atmosphere. Their ship's sensors detected thousands of flying vessels, most containing the dominant species, humans. These creatures had mastered flight without achieving interstellar travel, an unusual technological progression. They selected a landing site in what their database identified as Idaho, a relatively unpopulated area. As they touched down in a clearing, their sensors began producing contradictory readings. This can't be correct, Third Analyst Pex complained, their exoskeleton clicking in irritation. The temperature has fluctuated 15 degrees in the past hour. The atmospheric pressure is shifting constantly. The electromagnetic readings are chaotic. Welcome to Earth, announced Fourth Analyst Mira, the team's xenobiologist. Where nothing makes sense. Their first direct encounter with humans came sooner than planned. As they were establishing their base camp, a ground vehicle approached, kicking up dust. 2 humans emerged, wearing what appeared to be recreational gear. They carried devices that ZYX's universal translator identified as fishing rods. The humans stopped, stared at the clearly alien beings and their advanced technology, and smiled. "Well, would you look at that," one said, pulling out a communication device. "Hey, Frank, you're not gonna believe what we just found while looking for that fishing spot." The casual reaction to their presence violated every first contact protocol in the assessment manual. Where was the panic? The awe? The running away in terror? "You folks lost?" the second human asked, actually approaching them. "The UFO convention's over in Roswell, you know. You're about 1,000 miles off." ZYX's universal translator struggled with the concept of UFO convention, but managed to convey the general meaning. These humans were not only unafraid, but they were making jokes about extraterrestrial contact. "We are a planetary assessment team from the Galactic Safety Council," ZYX announced formally. "We are here to evaluate your world's suitability as a training ground for elite forces." The humans exchanged glances and laughed. Actually laughed. "Training ground," the first human said, wiping tears from their eyes. "Buddy, we use this planet as a training ground ourselves. Ever heard of extreme sports?" Over the next few hours, the humans, who introduced themselves as Rangers Tom and Bill, shared stories that made ZYX's appendages curl in horror. Humans deliberately climbed frozen waterfalls for fun. They jumped out of perfectly functional aircraft. They swam with creatures called sharks and explored underwater caves. "And don't even get me started on what they do in Yellowstone," Tom said, shaking his head. "People trying to pet buffalo, getting too close to geysers. As ZYX compiled their initial report that evening, they realized their standard assessment protocols would need significant revision. This wasn't just about evaluating environmental hazards or cataloging dangerous flora and fauna. The humans themselves had turned survival into an art form, then into a recreational activity, then into an extreme sport. Update to Galactic Safety Council, ZYX dictated. Earth Preliminary Assessment, Day 1. Request immediate protocol adjustment and reinforcement team. This planet doesn't need to be evaluated as a training ground. It's already the most advanced survival challenge course in the known galaxy. And the humans? They're not just surviving it. They're having fun doing it. The response from headquarters was immediate, request denied. Complete standard assessment. ZYX's color patterns shifted to what their species' equivalent of a smile would be. The council had no idea what they were in for. This was going to be the most interesting assessment of their career, if they survived it. The Weather Warriors. I don't understand, Klex muttered, their bioluminescent patches flickering in confusion. The forecast said partly cloudy with a chance of precipitation. How did we end up in this situation? The assessment team huddled in their reinforced shelter as a supercell thunderstorm raged overhead. They'd started their weather assessment in what humans called Oklahoma, a region known for its atmospheric instability. What they hadn't expected was the sheer unpredictability of Earth's weather systems. Those aren't clouds, Riven observed, their crystalline form vibrating with the thunder. That's a rotating wall of death. The phenomenon before them, a massive F4 tornado, tore across the landscape with terrifying force. But what truly astounded them was the behavior of the local humans. Instead of seeking proper shelter, several of them were actually driving toward the tornado in specialized vehicles. Storm chasers, explained their local contact, Professor Rita Wilson, through the communication link. They study these storms up close. Some do it for science, others for the thrill. We'll be joining them once this cell passes. Joining them? Hexa's exoskeleton rattled with anxiety. You want us to deliberately pursue these atmospheric anomalies? Of course. Rita's enthusiasm was palpable even through the static-filled connection. How else will you understand our weather patterns? Besides, this is just a regular Tuesday in Tornado Alley. The team had already learned that when humans described something as regular or normal, it usually meant extremely dangerous by galactic standards. Their first week of weather assessment had proven this repeatedly. In Florida, they'd witnessed humans surfing during a Category 3 hurricane. In Minnesota, children attended school in temperatures that would freeze the methane lakes on Titan. In Arizona, humans jogged in heat that would make a Venusian colonist uncomfortable. Incoming report from Secondary Team Beta, Mira announced, reviewing data on their holomonitor. They're currently in Death Valley, observing humans taking selfies in 120-degree Fahrenheit temperatures. Secondary Team Gamma reports humans ice fishing in Alaska at -40 degrees. ZYX's tentacles curled in contemplation. The temperature range these creatures not only survive but actively seek out for recreation is unprecedented. Add that to the list of classification-breaking observations. The storm outside their shelter intensified. Lightning struck with such frequency that it created a continuous strobe effect. The tornado had grown to nearly a mile wide, yet their instruments detected multiple human vehicles still in pursuit of it. Professor Wilson, ZYX called through the comm link, your species appears to have developed a rather unique relationship with extreme weather. Rita's laugh crackled through the speaker. You should see us during tsunami warnings in Hawaii. Surfers consider those epic conditions. The assessment team exchanged glances. They'd learned to dread the word epic, it usually preceded something that violated multiple laws of self-preservation. As the tornado finally dissipated, Rita arrived in her weather-modified truck to take them on their promised storm-chasing expedition. The vehicle looked like it had been designed for a war zone, which, given Earth's weather, made perfect sense. You'll want to secure those sensory appendages, Rita advised as they climbed aboard. We've got reports of baseball-sized hail forming in the next county. Baseball? Hex queried their database. Ah, a spherical projectile used in a human sport. Wait, ice spheres of that size falling from the sky. Sometimes bigger, Rita grinned, gunning the engine. But don't worry, this truck's built to take it. Most of the time. As they pursued the next storm system, ZYX composed their weather assessment update. Earth's atmospheric conditions defy standard classification parameters. Local species has not only adapted to extreme weather variations but actively seeks to study, document, and experience them. Recommend immediate revision of Galactic Safety Council weather hazard guidelines, current scale inadequate for Earth phenomena. Hey, Rita called from the driver's seat, who wants to see a fire tornado? There's a wildfire supercell interaction forming about 50 miles west of here. Myra's bioreadings showed clear signs of stress. Surely you don't mean an actual tornado made of fire? Welcome to Earth, Rita laughed, making a sharp turn west. Where the weather doesn't just try to kill you, it gets creative about it. ZYX added a postscript to their report. Note, local human population appears to have developed a recreational appreciation for meteorological phenomena that would qualify as extinction-level events on most inhabited worlds. Further study required to determine if this represents evolutionary adaptation or collective insanity. The truck's radar pinged with new alerts. Rita's eyes lit up with excitement. Perfect timing. Looks like we've got a derecho forming behind the fire tornado. Who's up for a 2-for-1 special? As the team braced themselves for whatever a derecho was, ZYX realized something profound. Earth's weather wasn't just a collection of survival challenges, it was a complex system that had shaped its dominant species into beings who viewed natural disasters as entertainment opportunities. Update classification status, ZYX muttered into their personal recorder. Earth weather patterns to be filed under new category, actively hostile with recreational potential. Cross-reference with psychological assessment of local species risk assessment capabilities. Or lack thereof. Predators and prey. According to our database, Riven announced, their crystalline form glinting in the morning sun, this creature is an apex predator. So why is the human petting it? The team watched in horror as their new guide, Wildlife Officer Raj Kumar, scratched behind the ears of a fully grown Bengal tiger. The big cat was sprawled on its side in a sanctuary enclosure, purring like some oversized house pet. Oh, this is Raja, Raj explained casually. Hand raised him from a cub. He's a sweetheart, really. Want to take a closer look? Negative, Pex replied quickly, their exoskeleton clicking rapidly in distress. Our risk assessment protocols specifically prohibit. Is that a snake around your neck? Mira interrupted, noticing the new addition to Raja's attire. This? Just a python. Non-venomous. The venomous ones are in the terrariums inside. Raj grinned. Would you like to see those next? ZYX's tentacles curled in disbelief as they updated their field notes. Humans display unprecedented tendency to form social bonds with predatory species. Further investigation required to determine if this represents extreme bravery or severe biological malfunction. Their wildlife assessment had started reasonably enough. They'd begun in Africa, observing what they thought would be natural predator-prey relationships. Instead, they'd witnessed humans approaching lions on foot, photographing themselves with elephants, and diving into waters inhabited by crocodiles. You must understand, ZYX tried explaining to Raj, on most worlds, creatures this dangerous are contained in maximum security facilities or avoided entirely. Raj laughed, now bottle-feeding a baby leopard. Where's the fun in that? Next week, I'm teaching a class on ethical snake handling. You should join us. The team's research had revealed disturbing patterns. Humans didn't just coexist with predators, they studied them, rehabilitated them, and in many cases, kept them as companions. Their database was filled with images of humans treating wolves like pets, swimming with sharks for recreation, and handling arachnids that could kill them with a single bite. Field report update: ZYX dictated while watching Raj demonstrate proper leopard cub burping techniques. Earth's predator-prey relationships require complete reclassification. Traditional survival paradigms do not apply when dominant species routinely adopts apex predators and calls them fluffy. Their next stop was Australia, which their preliminary data suggested contained the highest concentration of lethal wildlife per square kilometer in the known galaxy. Their local expert, wildlife ranger Jessica Thompson, greeted them with characteristic human cheerfulness. "Watch your step," she warned, leading them through the bush. "Brown snakes love sunning themselves this time of day. Highly venomous, but they're shy unless you step on them. And humans live here, voluntarily?" Klex asked, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with anxiety. "Live here? Mate, we built cities here." Jessica laughed. "Sure, you've got to check your boots for spiders, and the box jellies keep the beaches interesting during summer, but you get used to it." The team watched in amazement as Jessica casually relocated a 6-foot eastern brown snake from a walking trail, giving it a gentle pat before releasing it into the bush. "Beautiful creature," she remarked. "Did you want to see the funnelweb spider colony next? They're fascinating." Myra's xenobiological readings were off the charts. The venom from one of these spiders could kill a creature 10 times their size, they noted. "Yeah, they're pretty potent," Jessica agreed. "But we've got great antivenoms nowadays. Usually get to the hospital in time." "Usually," she added with a wink. The assessment team's collective survival instincts were screaming. On any other world, this concentration of lethal creatures would render it uninhabitable. Yet humans had not only survived here, they turned it into a tourist destination. Their day continued with Jessica showing them saltwater crocodiles, absolute units, but they're actually quite predictable, blue-ringed octopi, gorgeous little assassins, and something called a platypus. Venomous mammals are fun. "I need to revise our classification parameters," ZYX announced that evening, all their tentacles twitching with stress. Current categories include dangerous wildlife present and extreme predator activity. Earth requires a new classification, apex predators treated as inconvenient roommates. The final straw came when they visited a place called Steve's Reptile World. The owner, an enthusiastic human named Steve Jr., proudly showed them his collection of the world's most venomous snakes. He handled each one with the casualness of someone sorting their mail. "This beauty," he said, holding up a king cobra, "could kill 20 people with one bite. Isn't she gorgeous? Want to see her feeding time?" ZYX added a final note to their daily report: urgent update to Council, Earth's wildlife hazard assessment complicated by local species' inexplicable desire to interact with lethal creatures. Humans appear to have eliminated natural selection through sheer audacity. Request immediate protocol update. Current danger classifications clearly inadequate when species views apex predators as educational entertainment. As if to punctuate their report, Steve Jr.'s voice rang out, "Hey, who wants to see me hand-feed the Komodo dragons?" Urban jungle. "This can't be structurally sound," Riven insisted, their crystalline form vibrating with concern as they stared up at the Manhattan skyline. "They're stacking glass rectangles into the clouds." The assessment team had entered the final phase of their evaluation, studying human urban environments. After surviving extreme weather and lethal wildlife, they'd assumed cities would provide a respite. They were devastatingly wrong. "Our current location contains approximately 8.4 million humans," Mira reported, consulting their bioscanner. "All living in vertical structures, using underground transport systems, and consuming food from establishments called street vendors. Watch this," their urban guide, transportation engineer Marcus Wong, demonstrated by raising his arm. "Taxi." A yellow vehicle swerved across 3 lanes of traffic at speeds that violated several universal safety protocols, screeching to a halt beside them. Marcus grinned at their shocked expressions. "This is how we get around. Want to try it?" The team had already learned that human transportation systems operated on what they could only describe as organized chaos. Their traffic analysis showed that humans routinely piloted their vehicles at high speeds with mere inches of clearance, while simultaneously engaging in activities like drinking coffee and applying makeup. "Fascinating," Pex noted, their exoskeleton rattling as another taxi blazed past. "They've developed a complex system of colored lights and painted lines to prevent collisions, yet treat them as mere suggestions." Their urban assessment became more bewildering at every turn. Humans had built massive underground networks for transportation, created artificial canyons of steel and glass, and developed intricate systems for waste management, power distribution, and water supply. Yet they seemed to delight in pushing these systems to their absolute limits. "You should see Rush Hour," Marcus commented, leading them into the subway system. "That's when it gets really interesting." "Rush Hour?" Klex's bioluminescent patches dimmed with apprehension. "Yeah, when everyone tries to get to work at the same time. Millions of people, all competing for space in tunnels and train cars. Some folks make it into an art form. You haven't lived until you've seen someone apply a full face of makeup while standing in a packed train that's doing 60 miles per hour. ZYX's tentacles curled in horror as they witnessed this rush hour phenomenon. Humans packed themselves into metal containers beyond all reasonable capacity limits, maintaining complex social hierarchies and unwritten rules about personal space, or the complete absence thereof. "Field report update," ZYX dictated quietly. Human urban centers appeared designed to test maximum stress thresholds of both infrastructure and inhabitants simultaneously. Surprisingly, both seemed to adapt. Their tour continued through various districts, each presenting new contradictions. In one area, humans paid exorbitant sums to live in spaces smaller than standard prisoner cells. In another, they transformed abandoned industrial structures into something called luxury lofts. "And here's Times Square," Marcus announced proudly, gesturing to a sensory assault of lights, sounds, and moving images. "Pretty impressive, right? It appears designed to overwhelm all cognitive functions," Riven observed, their crystalline structure refracting the chaos of lights around them. "That's kind of the point." Marcus laughed. "Wait until New Year's Eve, when we pack 1,000,000 people in here to watch a ball drop." The team's collective survival instincts were screaming again. Humans didn't just survive in these urban environments, they deliberately created new challenges within them. They built restaurants at the tops of towers, constructed glass-bottom observation decks, and installed express elevators that moved at speeds that would qualify as escape velocity on some planets. Most concerning, Mira reported, reviewing their data, is their response to urban system failures. When their underground transportation breaks down, they don't evacuate. They complain about being late for brunch and order something called an Uber. The day's final stop was a place called Wall Street, where humans engaged in abstract combat over intangible resources. The team watched in fascination as traders shouted numbers at each other with the same intensity their species reserved for actual warfare. "This is their financial center," Marcus explained. "Where billions of dollars change hands every minute." "And what physical goods are being exchanged?" Pex inquired. "Oh, mostly nothing physical. It's all digital now, stocks, bonds, futures, cryptocurrencies." ZYX added another note to their increasingly confused report: human urban centers have evolved beyond mere physical challenges into complex sociological experiments. Inhabitants willingly participate in artificial stressors while creating new ones for entertainment. As they concluded their urban assessment, a final surprise awaited them. Dark clouds gathered overhead, lightning flashed between the skyscrapers, and rain began to fall in sheets. "Weather warning," Klex announced. "Recommend immediate shelter." But the humans around them simply opened small portable shields called umbrellas, and continued their activities without interruption. A group of tourists stopped to take selfies with the lightning strikes in the background. Final observation, ZYX dictated. Earth's urban environments represent a unique convergence of natural and artificial challenges. Humans respond by treating both as mere inconveniences. Recommend creation of new classification category, voluntarily complicated habitat. Marcus checked his phone. Hey, who's up for happy hour? I know this great rooftop bar, 86th floor, amazing views during thunderstorms. Final report, beyond classification. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Safety Council fell silent as Senior Inspector ZYX, for 27 floated to the presentation podium. Their tentacles, still slightly singed from their final day on Earth, something about a place called Texas Barbecue, arranged themselves into formal presentation position. Esteemed council members, ZYX began, their voice modulator struggling to maintain professional composure. I stand before you to present our assessment of planet Earth, designation Sol 3. After 3 months of intensive study, I can confidently state that our current classification system is completely inadequate. Murmurs rippled through the crystalline chamber. Behind ZYX, their team members displayed varying signs of stress. Riven's crystal structure was still showing hairline cracks from their New York subway experience, Klex's bioluminescence had developed a permanent nervous twitch, and Pex's exoskeleton had changed color entirely. Let me be clear, ZYX continued, activating their holographic display. Earth is not merely a challenging environment. It is not simply a death world. It is, in fact, something entirely new, a planet that actively tries to eliminate its inhabitants through every possible means, while said inhabitants respond by turning it into entertainment. The display showed their collected footage, humans climbing frozen waterfalls for fun, swimming with great white sharks for research, and building glass floor observation decks on skyscrapers for the view. The humans, Mira added, stepping forward, have developed a unique response to planetary hazards. Where other species evolved to avoid dangers, humans have evolved to say, hold my beer, and attempt them anyway. The council chamber erupted in confused chattering. Surely you exaggerate, one council member suggested. No species could survive such conditions while maintaining technological advancement. ZYX activated their next series of recordings. Humans pursuing tornadoes in vehicles, freediving with killer whales, and participating in something called Black Friday shopping. Not only do they survive, Pex explained, their exoskeleton clicking rapidly, they create additional challenges when natural ones prove insufficient. They invented something called extreme sports because regular survival wasn't exciting enough. The presentation continued with detailed analyses of human behavior patterns. Klex handled the urban development section, explaining how humans had created artificial canyons of glass and steel, then filled them with millions of people who willingly participated in daily endurance trials called commuting. Their response to natural disasters is particularly noteworthy, Riven reported, displaying footage from their weather assessment. When faced with an incoming hurricane, many humans organize gatherings called hurricane parties. They celebrate the approach of meteorological phenomena that would qualify as extinction-level events on most worlds. The Council's chief administrator raised an appendage. Your recommendation, Inspector ZYX. ZYX's tentacles arranged themselves into their most formal configuration. Earth cannot be classified as a training ground for elite forces. It would be unsuitable. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Not because it's insufficiently challenging, ZYX clarified quickly. But because no training program could adequately prepare anyone for a planet where the dominant species treats survival itself as a recreational activity. The holographic display showed their final evidence, humans based jumping from cliffs, running with bulls, eating something called ghost peppers, and volunteering at places called customer service centers. Furthermore, ZYX continued, we must consider the humans themselves. Any species we send there for training would inevitably encounter them. And humans, we've discovered, have an irrepressible desire to teach others their cool tricks. The team shuddered collectively, remembering their final week on Earth when various humans had attempted to teach them surfing, rock climbing, and something called parkour. My final recommendation is this, ZYX announced. Earth should be reclassified as its own category. Not a training ground, but a testament to the sheer improbability of evolution. A planet where the very concept of survival has been transformed into an art form, a sport, and a source of social media content. Mira stepped forward one last time. We should also note that during our presentation preparation, we received 17 invitations from humans to return for activities including volcano boarding, wingsuit flying, and something called a gender reveal party, which, according to our research, often involves explosives. ZYX wrapped up their presentation with a final observation: the humans have a saying, hold my beer and watch this. We recommend this be adopted as Earth's official classification warning in all galactic databases. The council chambers erupted in discussion, but ZYX's team had one last surprise. They activated their final holographic display, an invitation from their various human guides to return for something called an Extreme Survival Championship. They want to turn our survival assessment, ZYX explained, their tentacles curling in a mix of horror and admiration, into a reality show. The chief administrator's color patterns shifted to indicate deep concern. And your response to this invitation? ZYX's team exchanged glances before ZYX responded, we've agreed to participate. Apparently, it will be televised. As the council chamber descended into chaos, ZYX added a personal note to their final report: Earth's greatest survival challenge isn't its weather, wildlife, or urban environments. It's resisting the strange appeal of its dominant species' infectious enthusiasm for turning everything, including planetary assessment missions, into an adventure.